Okay, so the Fortress Mental Health Protection System is out. The first two tutorials, the first two tutorials have been released. The feedback so far has been really, really good. One of the things that people have commented on is a change in tone for me. What I'm trying to do with this particular project is, like, people have said, oh, you seem like you're getting frustrated with people that they're not doing the work. And I'm like, yeah, you're nearly there, but not quite. I'm more disappointed with myself that I haven't. Sometimes you'll know a rule, you'll know what the right thing to do is, but you just won't do it. And I've been doing, well, for about 5 years now, I've been doing business coaching for people, and I do it more and more now in the online space for people who are looking to build online brands and online businesses. And one of the things that I heard myself saying is, you can never restate your core brand message enough. Restate, reframe, say it again, because you're constantly bringing new people in and they don't really know what's going on. So, and I suppose I never really sort of crossed them over, because well, this isn't really a brand. It's to me, it's always felt like a project, not a brand. And I was like, the same principles apply, and it is useful every once in a while to go, look, this is what we're doing and this is what we're talking about, because the human brain doesn't love complexity. It likes things to be simplified. It likes maps that it can get a hold of and go, okay, here's a complete working model of everything that's going on. That was one part of the inspiration. The other part of the inspiration for doing it was a couple of videos that I did around May of last year, April. So it's a while ago. It's nearly a year ago now. It was like a series called CPTSR Thrivers. It's where I was looking at CPTSD particularly. And I went through talking about time binding, timeline fracturing, objective identification. This is all technical terminology. I know you don't need to know what it means. But one particular thing that I was looking at is, when people go into certain emotional states, we know this in the community and the literature, it's called being in an emotional flashback. When you're in a certain series of emotional states in a recurrent way, it's almost like it creates its own mini personality. We think of projective identification as something that we push outward onto others. Then it seems to me that sometimes we show up as a certain way. So there's certain archetypal roles that we push onto people, that we project onto people sometimes. And then there's certain archetypes that we are showing up as. And one of them, it seems to me, to be archetypal traumatized person who was abandoned and was traumatized in their timeline in the past, but now feels abandoned and feels traumatized today. And you go, well, what are you doing? Are you victim blaming right now? Like, no, it's not that whole cultural movement towards being like trying to win a fight over who's right and who's wrong and who's to blame and all that. It's not my scene, man. I wouldn't consider myself particularly concerned with, political correctness and, say, oh, that's you're shaming, you're doing some shaming there. I'm like, I think if you get to a point where you want to say something, you want to tell the truth, and then we brand it as some horrible act, what you're actually doing is attacking people telling the truth, and you're making it harder and harder and more of a punitive exercise to tell the truth. And that seems like a dangerous movement. So I'm not down for that. Not about victim shaming or blaming the victim, but it's just what happens. I like to view things mechanically. I'm from, generations of military types. Men in my family were military and engineers. The women in my family generation were entrepreneurs, business builders. Everybody worked, and it's all about practicality. I'm into practicality and solutions. You're telling me this car doesn't run. And I look under the bonnet, hood, and see what's going on, please, and see what's going need to be fixed. You were hurt, so now you feel hurt. You were abandoned, and so now you feel abandoned. Now, if you're experiencing as a human adult, you're carrying very intense, and let me emphasize, very intense emotions of abandonment and hurt. The system that you are will fight non-consciously to justify those feelings, because otherwise, and it's not doing it, it's not self-sabotage, it's not a manifestation of young shadow self, it's not Freud's death drive, it's none of that. It's way simpler, and yet in some senses it's more complex. As a system, as an engine, we fight for homeostasis. So as a feedback system, you, I, we, one takes information from the environment, one interprets the information, and one has a feeling about the information. That's the way it's supposed to work. With trauma, that process, trauma breaks, trauma warps, trauma corrupts, pain twists. That's why the word torture, the word to torture, torture, is to twist. Torturing is literally twisting. It's the same root as torque, T-O-R-Q-U-E, twists. Where's the twist? We can accept that the dry clinical language that we've been using is probably not helpful. So we say, oh, this person has abandonment anxiety. Oh, isn't that fucking cute? This person is terrified, mind-numbingly, eye-rollingly screaming in terror of abandonment. That might be more helpful. My emotions, your emotions, if our emotions, if one's emotional state is strong enough, it shoots the energy back through the feedback system the wrong way. It's instead of the pursuit goes, there is a red apple. Me like red apple. Me eat red apple. Me feel good. Oh, that's nice. It'd be like shooting it through the other way. There's no apple there. You feel good, and your brain goes, this is the feeling I get when there's red apples. And the emotion, the heart is going, yeah, yes, 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 yes. And the brain goes, well, I guess there's red apples. And the whole system starts going, where's the red apples? Now, if you show up, in this crazy thought experiment scenario I'm laying out for you, and you start saying to other members of your tribe, where's the red apples? And they're like, it's not apple season, dude. No apples for another 6 months. And you're like, no, it is. I feel them. Red apples are here. I see them. Where do you see them? On that tree. Nothing in that. I see the red apples. Don't you deny my reality. There's red apples there. I know that. There isn't. There isn't. Feedback loop reverses. This is why I've been saying we must come back to emotions. We must come back to emotional literacy. This is why it's so critical. We have to reduce the emotional flashback. We have to access the emotions because it's so powerful. And we, with our, 17th century forward, bracing ourselves into our corsets, pulling on our britches and crushing our nuts, we've civilized away and squashed away natural, real, and the animalistic, because post-Renaissance, I think there was a horror for that part of us which seemed to be akin to a dog or a cat, but we tried to deny it. And that has been the historical root of a multiplicity of neuroses. because we're now not in touch with our natural states, and we're terrified of our feelings. You can't live like that. But the sad baby archetype is, I feel hurt and I feel abandoned and I feel helpless, because I was in my timeline then. I was hurt, I was abandoned, I was helpless. Now I feel hurt, I feel abandoned, I feel helpless. So I make it that way because I'm fighting in the system for homeostasis. If I feel this way, it must be this way. If I feel this way, it must be this way. If I feel this way, it must be this way. And if it isn't this way, God, I'll make it this way. This is the borderline nightmare. I want intimacy. I feel abandonment. Oh, I'll bloody well create it. That's the torture of borderline personality disorder, of counter dependency. I want it, triggers an emotion in me. I hate that feeling. Nobody could ever love me because I'm a bad object. I better kill this relationship. I better ruin this friendship, ruin this relationship. Horrible, right? So knowing that, from a systemic point of view, I started to have more compassion for people who could not or would not do the work. So I said, okay, so if they can't, if they're in sad baby flashback, they feel helpless and they feel sad and they feel abandoned, they won't do it. You can't just give it to them, adult to adult. You go, this is what I did and it worked for me. Because you'll get, I think I've been reaching probably 40 to 50% of people who have handed that to. 50 to 60% of people don't do the work because they can't get past the sad baby archetype. But the Fortress mental health protection system is there to make people feel secure, make people feel safe. And the tone is me talking to a confused 14-year-old, a confused but intelligent 14-year-old who I expect things from, who I expect to be brave and responsible. It's me back in the schools, basically. And people have responded really well to it. So the premiere of the third tutorial is going to go live right now. Join me for that. Let's watch that together, and then I'm going to do a live Q&A over on Fortress Mental Health Protection System YouTube channel. If you want to join me for the premiere and the Q&A, just put Fortress Mental Health Protection System into YouTube, and you will find it right now. See you there. Cheers.